Welcome back to my channel, YouTube. Listen, we're gonna jump right in today. This is not one of the mother sauces, but this is actually, I would argue, one of the most important sauces that you need to know. And it's called beurre blanc. And it's actually really easy to make, highly controversial whether you should put cream or not. And in all honesty, I'm gonna give you that little piece of advice first. If I'm in a busy restaurant and I don't have time to watch a cook or worry about a sauce breaking on the station, then yes, absolutely, I'm gonna add cream, or I'm gonna tell the cook to add a percentage of cream, because then you're guaranteed no breakage. The beurre blanc I'm gonna show you today requires no cream, and that's how it was originally made, but at the same time, you have to use your best judgment. I am a big supporter of the modern version beurre blanc, where you add a touch of xanthan gum to the base, and then you incorporate the butter. And what that does is it makes it Superman. You can't break it, it's amazing. But if you add too much, then it becomes gummy. So without further ado, let's jump into this super simple sauce to make. Okay, so for this sauce, it's actually really easy to make. Make sure you have your mise en place together. I can't explain enough. You need to have everything prepped before you start cooking. So here we have a little bit of shallot. We have some black peppercorns, completely optional. We have some diced butter, which I'm gonna put back into the fridge while we're making our reduction. We have lemons, and then we have a little champagne vinegar. You could ultimately use whatever vinegar you want, apple cider, white wine vinegar. Then we also have a white wine. You can use a white wine of your choice, and we're gonna make this sauce real quick. Let's do it. I like to start off by just adding the vinegar first, letting this come up just to a boil to knock off the edge. Okay, so once that comes up to a boil, then I add my white wine. And if you notice, I go through this whole series without measuring anything, and I think this is really important. When you're making sauces, it's really learning about feel. Now, if you're a chef in a restaurant, then obviously you want to give a standardized recipe. When you're making sauces for learning and education, start off with a small amount and then go from there. So from here, we have our shallots we added. Now, listen, I just did a rough, small dice on these, but if you're gonna use them in the finished product, then make sure you cut them nice. We're gonna add a little bit of peppercorn just for some flavor. Totally optional, but I'm gonna add a few thyme sprigs right in there. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this reduce down to pretty much almost a sec. I'm gonna let that do its thing, and then we'll see you back in a second. Okay, so once we are here, and as you can see, I'm gonna pull this up the heat a little bit. So we're about pretty much almost there. Not completely au sec, which means dry, but we are pretty close. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the heat down to low. At this point, if you wanted to add cream, this is when you would add cream, and then you bring up to a boil, reduce by a third, and then you can mount your butter. Also, note to self, I do not cook the lemon in beurre blanc. I always add the lemon towards the end, so that way it stays nice and vibrant. What I like to do is just turn the heat completely off, then we can start adding the butter. Now I add a few cubes at a time, but to start, you can go ahead and add, quite a bit. It's not gonna crush the sauce, right? Get this working, and you wanna keep it moving, because once you form the sauce, then it's gonna be very important you don't break the sauce. I always stress that if the sauce is not steaming anymore, then you need to turn the heat back on. But the butter is what's gonna be thickening up the sauce. Butter's halfway melted, we're gonna keep adding, okay? A few cubes at a time, nothing crazy. Depending on how thick it is how much butter I'm gonna add. I'm gonna keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving. It's very important, you wanna emulsify this, right? This is why a lot of chefs and cooks add cream, because that will stabilize the butter in there. I think what's really important is not getting the beurre blanc too thick, not too thin. And as you will see, as I go to add more butter, it'll thicken up quite significantly. I have a little bit more to go. I'm gonna add a few more tablespoons of butter, and then I'll show you what the finished product looks like. So we are getting a little bit closer. The heat is completely off, and I just wanna keep on making sure that I'm stirring this. And now this is the point when I add my salt. If you add salt too early in a reduction, then you're gonna end up paying for it. So what I always recommend is to salt when you're almost done finishing your sauce. You'll yield a better product. Here we go, here we go. I can tell it's starting to thicken up a little bit. I think what's really important for me is with a beurre blanc, I'd rather it be too thin than too thick. And I think this is really important. When you start the sauce, after you start melting the butter, don't leave it. Just get it start to finish. Finish this task before you start another one. Ladies and gentlemen, I wanna show you this real quick. So this is the beurre blanc base. You see how it coats the back of the spoon, but it's not too thick. Now, there's a reason for this. If I'm at home, then I can finish this sauce right away. But if I'm in a restaurant scenario, I'm gonna show you how I like to finish this beurre blanc. This is how I train cooks on how to finish a beurre blanc. Okay, let's say fire scallop, right? So basically you have your beurre blanc base, it gets strained into the pan. And if you did this right, it will not break. As you can see, it starts to bubble. From there, I'm gonna add a little bit of lemon juice. Let's keep that nice and bright. Then you start shaking vigorously. You see how it turns nice and white? Boom, you add your herbs, re-season, turn off the heat, and then boom, your sauce is finished. If you are on a station, you wanna do this a la minute is what we call it, in the moment. And it's very important because this sauce won't break. That's why I like to keep the base separate. I always add my citrus at the end so it stays nice and bright. Let's show you what this looks like. So basically, when you go to pour it on the plate, it looks nice and beautiful, not broken. It's velvety, it's rich, it's delicious. And you can tell, that's why I add the herbs right at the end. You really wanna do everything in the moment. That's wonderful. Look at that. All right, so I hope you got some value out of this. Beurre blanc goes great with any fish. The technique I just showed you is a la minute. It's in the moment. It's the way I like to do beurre blanc. And then obviously from this, you can make any derivative of sauce you want. The options are endless. So anyway, if you like this video, smash that like button and also send this to somebody who needs to see it. See you in the next episode.